discussion you had with Jack Dorsey. A lot of very thought-provoking commentary, including this idea that Bitcoin is predictable and deliberate and even slower moving perhaps than some other kinds of crypto assets, which is why the both of you prefer it over some of those other crypto assets. Big picture around Bitcoin and what it means for businesses like Square, based on what Dorsey said yesterday, and also for MicroStrategy.
Yeah, well, I think that the world's plagued with an inflation problem. The headlines last night were that Lebanese consumers lost 93% of their wealth because of a currency devaluation. The same's happened in Argentina. Turkey's on the brink. And, the banks are going to freeze their assets and they're going to hold them for many, many years. There's no solution there. And so the internet's also plagued by scammers, spammers, surveillance.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to the live.
There were 398 Michael Saylor Twitter bots spun up in 30 minutes yesterday. Big tech needs a solution. Big finance needs a solution. There's billions of people that are unbanked. And so Jack's a man on a mission, and his observation is we need digital property, which is open, permissionless, fair, ethical, and we can build on that base, especially if we use Lightning to move that value at the speed of light everywhere in the world.
Yeah, I think he used the words very close to the first native internet language and how different business models might look for example, social media companies, if something like Bitcoin had existed sooner. This idea of emerging and overlapping of payment systems and services at a company like Square using Bitcoin. How do those worlds emerge at MicroStrategy?
Our view is
I'm doing well. I unfortunately panic sold some MicroStrategy. I wish I bought more when it was crashing. I was a paper handing sissy.
% year over year, and we dropped 18% of our revenues as free cash flow that we were able to use for debt service and for acquiring more Bitcoin. So the core business is healthy. The Bitcoin strategy is to, of course, reinvest our proceeds into Bitcoin, and we kind of view ourselves as we're combining the efficiency of a zero-fee spot ETF with the yield and the cheap leverage of an operating company without the competitive risk of a Bitcoin miner. So that's kind of a compelling offering if you're a public market investor and you're looking for Bitcoin exposure.
So it sounds like you're very much on board with this idea, at least from a Wall Street and investor standpoint, of the stock being seen as a bet on Bitcoin.
We definitely believe in Bitcoin, and we believe that Bitcoin is the most disruptive force of the decade. And so certainly our intention is to continue to acquire and hold Bitcoin by any means that's accretive.
Okay, so let's talk about near term right now, which is the fact that you reported earnings last night, stocks under pressure, net loss of $90 million or $8.43 per share. Street had actually been looking for a profit of 89 cents. Of course, this loss was largely tied to the inclusion of impairment losses on Bitcoin that more than offset the profit from your core software business. I mean, walk us through the implications of that as you continue to build out that core business and also, as you said on the call last night, look to acquire more Bitcoin.
Well, I think the most important numbers to focus on are the revenue growth, 6% up year over year, the 18% free cash flow margin. So we are generating a lot of cash. We are growing our core business, and we've got 125,000 Bitcoin. And I think our investors, they understand those numbers. The indefinite intangible accounting that we have on our GAAP statements and the inclusion of the non-cash charges on our pro formas make it a little bit opaque if you're using those conventional measures.
But if we've seen the price of Bitcoin fall pretty dramatically in recent weeks. We've got this Fed tightening cycle. If we see a prolonged downdraft in the price of Bitcoin, how much would that actually hinder the MicroStrategy strategy?
We're very flexible here. Again, we're generating free.
That's great that you picked up Ford and Apple, but what about Amazon, Google, and I even say MicroStrategy is a good long-term stock for crypto bulls. But Apple and Ford are good. I like Apple and Ford.
I think that Bitcoin's going to have a good decade. And the big elephant in the room here is there are billion.
But I think Tesla will do better. So let's see if my prediction's right. But I think Tesla will do much better stock performance-wise than Ford. But, I could be wrong.
the primary digital property. There is no second best. David Marcus, who had the DM initiative, has endorsed Bitcoin as the solution. And you heard from Jack Dorsey yesterday. There is one solution to the problem. Billions of people have the problem. It's going to take a little bit of time for the world to sort itself out, but we're not concerned about the near-term volatility of the markets.
Hey, Michael, you've been pretty upfront, as you say, about communicating the Bitcoin strategy, but the stock is the correlation of Bitcoin's approaching 1. That's double the S&P software index. Does it need to be reclassified, or do ratings agencies need to be notified?
Yeah, so I had the same problem where my portfolio is too much tech. The best thing you can do is buy the index of VOO and VTI. So if you want to type that in the chat, if you can, I would definitely consider owning those two funds because it'll just buy the entire index, S&P 500, and it'll automatically diversify for you. And it gives you a dividend yield because if you own tech stocks, there's no dividend. So yeah, just type it in the chat. Yep, VOO and VTI, correct.
So the character of the company is evolving. I think that that industry watchers are gonna catch up with us in time. We just have to be patient.
Michael, it's David. And always listening to you with great interest.
I love QQQ. You're just paying a little higher expense fees. So QQQ is fine. I would actually pick some up. And then the other one I like is Vanguard has their own. It's VGT. But QQQ is really good. I like QQQ. In fact, when I end this live, I'm going to go buy some QQQ. So thank you for bringing up QQQ.
Morally sound, politically sound path forward, and that's Bitcoin. I think people are starting to realize that now. If you're looking for catalysts for more institutional adoption, I think that an approval of the spot ETF would be a catalyst. I think that if FASB converts the accounting treatment to fair value accounting, that will be a catalyst. I think that additional regulatory clarity from the administration is going to benefit Bitcoin and accelerate institutional adoption of that asset. That's a catalyst.
What would that clarity be from the SEC, for example, that you think would be beneficial?
I think the definition, clear, bright line definitions of digital property versus a digital security versus a digital currency, and the operating rules of a digital exchange. I think that people understand, broadly speaking, that Bitcoin is common property. It's not a security. I think we're waiting for the operating rules of the road for securities, for digital art, for digital exchanges, for digital currency, and there's a bit of ambiguity there right now.
Michael, will you raise more debt or issue more equity to buy more Bitcoin?
I think we're going to continue to use cash flows to buy Bitcoin. I think that if we see accretive opportunities to do financings, accretive debt financings, we'll consider them. I think we'll consider other equity-linked financings if we believe they're accretive. As you know, the markets fluctuate, and so sometimes they are and sometimes they are not. And I think we're open to other partnerships that might generate yield. We don't have any specific plans right now, but it's very important that that our shareholders know we have 110,000 Bitcoin that's unpledged as collateral. That's a big asset base. And as an operating company, we have the opportunity to use that asset base if we think that it's in the best interest of the shareholders.
To go back to something you just said, I mean, how much of a disincentive is it currently, given the regulatory and accounting rules around something like Bitcoin, from more companies adopting it and putting it on their balance sheets?
I think that for publicly traded companies that rely heavily on GAAP accounting, it's probably the single legitimate pushback you would hear from a CFO. They're not concerned about.
If you're going to do the energy sector ETF, I think it's too hot right now because everyone's trying to get into energy. I would just buy the S&P 500 and you'll get exposure to energy. But I would definitely look into doing the energy sector when it's not like you're getting into a crowded trade if you're trying to get into energy right now. But it could continue to do well. So, I could be wrong.
Where do you think the price ultimately goes?
There's a lot of uncertainty about DeFi, about crypto exchanges, about the future of digital securities. There's 20x leverage trading, cross-collateralized against crypto assets and Bitcoin offshore. There is no wash trading rule, so fast money traders can sell $1 billion of it and buy it.
Yeah, I won't buy energy stocks now. If there's a correction and energy stocks go down, then I would look to buy. The only way I'm going to get exposed to energy is just buying the S&P 500 because obviously, there's plenty of energy companies in the top 500, of America.
As it becomes more normalized and treated similar to other asset classes, I think that volatility is dampened. And I think that the stability of the asset is going to encourage institutions to come into it in larger volumes.
Michael Saylor, always great to get your thoughts. Thanks for joining us today, CEO of
Thanks for having me.
MicroStrategy.
All right, guys, any final questions before I go? I will answer your questions. If not, thank you for coming on this live stream. I'm going to do these live streams every morning, so just check your YouTube app, and hopefully you can come on these live streams. I don't mind watching the CNBC content, but I prefer to answer questions and talk about, your own investments and just, give you my opinion, not financial advice. So yeah, if there's any other last minute questions, let me know. If not, I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream because I don't think they're talking anything crypto related. Let's see what they're talking about.
Family. One of the most important things you can do to improve the financial future for the Black community.
Yeah, this is not crypto related. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Check out my morning live streams. I'm going to try to go live every morning around the time the stock market opens. So you got any questions, come on my live stream. Would love to help you out or just give you my opinion. And I'll talk to you guys soon.